All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Government, Labor, and Elections Committee. I'm Chair Wells. We'll be joined by our Vice Chair Delegate Ken Kerr shortly. And today is Thursday, March 12th. We will begin our bill hearing today with Delegate Grice, HB 1038. Is that correct? Yep. Good to see you. Congratulations on the new grandbaby as well.
Oh, thank you very, very much, and I appreciate the committee taking us first. This is among my fourth most important and happiest days of my life, and I have my second grandchild was born just a few hours ago, and so I'll be leaving here to meet Abigail for the first time. Thank you all very, very much. But for the record, Delegate Jeff Grice is representing House Bill 1038. This is a Caroline County delegation bill. It's very simple. So under current law, Caroline County is mandated by the state to issue dog licenses. They want to be joined by 7 other counties where they have an exemption, where there's not this mandate. And so we just ask that the committee move favorably.
All right. Thank you very much. Are there any questions to the bill sponsor? All right, seeing none, I do, oh wait, written. Yep, okay, we have written testimony, that's it. So that concludes our bill hearing on HB 1038. Thank you very much.
Thank you all very much.
We'll move on next to Delegate Klippinger, HB 1480. Yes, please do.
Mr. Canal here? Mr. Canal is not here. Okay, just us.
Oh, I do. No, I didn't see him.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, this is House Bill 1480, legislation that seeks to address issues that I think are essential as we are in uncertain times to our state's labor law and how it interacts with federal law. The legislation that is before you does a couple of things, but it's done in the light of what's going on in Washington, where there is an effort to weaken federal child labor laws. And there's also efforts to pass legislation that would detrimentally alter the National Labor Relations Act by creating employee involvement organizations, which would circumvent the NLRB and which enforces the NLRA. Standing up now for the rights of our workers is important, and that's why this legislation would do 4 things. It would increase state penalties for violating child labor standards to match the current penalties for violating federal child labor laws under the Fair Labor Standards Act. It would establish that the Maryland Public Employee Relations Board will stand in for the NLRB if Congress repeals the Labor Relations Act, or if the federal government cedes jurisdiction to the states. It prohibits employers from forming EIOs that are not subject to the National Labor Relations Act or under the jurisdiction of the NLRB. And it prohibits a unit of the executive branch from petitioning or applying to the federal government for a waiver of any FLSA provision that is applicable to the unit, even if the waiver is otherwise authorized under federal law. There are 2 amendments that the committee should have. One of the amendments addresses a technical concern of hospitals who have to form, in some cases, committees in order to have people who work there maintain their accreditation. There's the second amendment that was submitted eliminates the overlapping authority of the state and the federal government if there are no changes on the federal government side. So in other words, the changes that would effectively move the federal protections to the state level only happen if those protections are taken away at the federal level. And so with that, I'm going to stop right there, and I'm going to hand it over to Donna Edwards, who I think was initially favorable with amendments, but some of the amendments were issues that I think are some of the issues were dealt with the amendments, and I'll hand it over to her.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Madam Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, and members of the committee. I'm Donna Edwards. I'm president of the Maryland State and DC AFL-CIO. Thank you for the sponsor. I think you've laid it out very cleanly and very succinctly. I have worked very closely with the Senate President as well as the sponsor on several amendments that really did clean up the bill, because as written, some people might have said it was a trigger bill. This is not. This is a contingency bill. It goes into effect, as the sponsor has said, if the NLRA is repealed or if the NLRB succeeds any jurisdiction. The other very important part of this bill is strengthening our child labor requirements. In the country, 16 states have weakened their child labor laws, and they have even gone as far as to consider 14-year-olds serving alcohol. So we want to make sure that our child labor laws are strengthened and supported, and that there are some teeth into the laws, as well as we want to provide protections for the private employees if the federal government continues to move along the lines that we see it moving. So this is a very well-written, tight bill, and a very important bill, and I ask for a favorable report on HB 1480.
Mr. Cano.
Thank you, Mr. Kano.
Thank you, Madam Chair. On behalf of the 23,000 members of SEIU Local 500, I want to express that we believe this is a comprehensive and timely measure that is going to strengthen Maryland's commitment to protecting workers, defending the right to organize, and ensuring that labor standards keep pace with the evolving threats to working people's rights. And at a moment where we see federal labor protections are increasingly uncertain, this bill ensures that Maryland doesn't retreat from its responsibilities to uphold fairness, safety, and dignity in the workplace. First, addressing the issue of exploitative child labor laws that we're seeing currently being repealed around the country. States like Florida, states like Arkansas are asking more and more underage folks and teenagers to work later on school nights. And this exploitative and unsafe working conditions for minors ends up becoming unacceptable. Meaningful penalties, especially for willful and repeated violations, this bill gives teeth to address and ensure that the safety of our children is non-negotiable, that young workers' health and education is non-negotiable. Second, the bill does protect from these so-called employer-dominated organizations that undermine genuine collective bargaining. These employer-controlled entities often dilute workers' voices through meet and confer processes that we know just are rubber stamps for their boss to do what they want. And they circumvent legitimate independent labor organizations, and they try to circumvent the labor law protections that are provided. And then lastly, again, should the NLRB be gutted, should the current administration be successful in their crusade against working families and the checks and balances that exist to protect them, this bill does grant PERB the authority to step in clearly defined circumstances. It's a prudent and necessary safeguard for workers' rights. And finally, this bill prohibiting state agencies to seek waivers from Federal Labor Standards Act means that we're not racing to the bottom on wages, and that public employers are leading by example. So we urge a favorable report, and thank you to Delegate Clippinger and Senate President Ferguson for leading on this issue.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kano. Thank you, Delegate Clippinger, for the bill, and to Ms. Edwards. We'll move to questions. We'll begin with Delegate Ruth.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Delegate Clippinger, for this really important bill. I wanted to ask President Edwards, ask you a question. As you know, I have had concern. Child labor is a big concern of mine. Can you talk a little bit more about how this strengthens the child labor laws in Maryland?
Well, it makes it clear that we are enforcing our laws. It also increases significantly. Well, it mirrors the federal penalties, which Maryland has not done so far. Great. So it actually codifies that this is serious, this is what we're going to do, and this is what we're going to enforce.
Great. Thank you so much.
Delegate Lehman.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Delegate, for bringing this bill. And thank you, Ms. Edwards, as always, for your sharing your expertise. So I understand this is contingency legislation, similar to the bill you presented, I think, with Chair Wilson. But I was curious about the issue of So the Trump administration has signaled pretty openly on some agencies, FEMA comes to mind, that they think it makes more sense for the states to take on some or all of those responsibilities. With the NLRB, Do you, or is anyone imagining, or have you yet, anyone figured out whether they at some point might like actively cede jurisdiction in some areas to states, or that they might just eventually passively sort of abandon some of these areas and make room for states to step in? Has anyone sort of figured out the lay of the land?
I'm not going to try to pretend to understand what will be coming from Washington next. I think it's usually a pretty good idea at this point. The idea behind this legislation is at least we take an initial step to say that we want to make sure that basic protections are there in place, and then we can see what happens. We can see what happens next. But again, this is a contingency bill, so it comes into play only if there are those changes from the federal government.
May I also add that the sponsors considered everything that's going on with Project 2025. And Project 2025 has some clear language in what they want their goals to be. And a lot of those goals, of course, are attacking and weakening workers' power and workers' unions. And a lot of that also has to do with focusing on employers setting up, employer types of organizations that would usurp the true power of worker engagement. And I think I would call, especially in the amendments, that the difference between collective bargaining and real power is that the workers have an equal voice while they're doing bargaining on all of these worker issues, whereas in an employer-sponsored labor management or governance, they can unilaterally just stop the committee anytime they want and say, well, that's it, we're done. We're not talking anymore.
Okay. And this is protection against that scenario.
There's
obviously.
protection against that.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. I'm just curious, I think this came up on a previous bill. This is our second bill we've heard this year that's I guess, a contingency bill. We have the National Labor Relations Act one. But I'm just wondering if you might be able to speak to some concern that it could conflict with established preemption principles under the Supreme Court decision. I think San Diego Building Trades Council versus Garmin.
Could you repeat that, please?
Yep. Curious, there was just some concern raised by the opposition, and wanted to give you a chance to respond in regards to this bill could conflict with established federal preemption principles under the U.S. Supreme Court decision in San Diego Building Trades Council versus Garmin, 1959.
That I don't know.
Go ahead.
He's the lawyer that would know that case, but I can tell you the most recent cases. These types of bills were passed in New York, California, and Massachusetts. New York and California is what we would call a trigger bill. They had things in them like if, there wasn't a quorum at the NLRB, that the state would then have jurisdiction. Well, that's not true, because the NLRB still exists, even if there's one member on it and they're doing no business. This bill, as well as the previous bill you heard last week, have none of those contingencies in it. They simply say, if the NLRA is repealed, so therefore it does not exist, or if the NLRB cedes jurisdiction, then our state can take on those cases. And both in New York and California, they were appealed by the NLRB, and we have stepped down. It's over. Massachusetts has this bill, and it is not under appeal, because it is not one that is in the jurisdiction of either the law or the NLRB.
Thank you. Seeing no further questions from the committee, thank you, Delegate Clippinger, and to your sponsor panel. We'll move on to unfavorable testimony. Mike O'Halloran, Grayson Wiggins, Sean Malone, and Michael Adams.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Grayson Wiggins here on behalf of the Maryland Chamber of Commerce. First, our concerns are not really with the first few pages of the bill related to the child labor penalties. Our concerns really start on page 6 of the bill, and I do appreciate that there are amendments. We got them an hour ago, and so we're still working through them. My understanding is, and I think this was referenced, is that large parts of the bill that was introduced were from the California law. I believe the amendments take those out due to the California law being subject to a preliminary injunction in the Sixth Circuit in federal court. But just on a cursory review of the amendments, we do still have some concerns. I believe page 6, lines 10 through 18 are still in the bill, which seems to prohibit employee advisory councils. Additionally, I believe page 12, line 26 may still be in the bill, which it has language that says evidence in one of these processes, if the NLRA is repealed, if it goes to PERB, then the evidence would not be allowed to be served on the respondent, which in this case would be the employer. And so we don't see a practical effect of why you would keep information or evidence from an employer who's party to a case. And then on page 14, line 14, there's language in there that says PERB may rely on their own decisions or NLRB decisions. And so what we see that as the practical effect of that would be establishing new civil penalties without a clear standard for employers to follow, whether it be a PERB decision or an NLRB decision. And additionally, I believe page 6, line 12, there's references to quality of work and efficiency in the those employee advisory council prohibitions, and we believe those may run afoul of the Electromation Incorporated case from 1992 under NLRB jurisdiction. So we'll take a further look at these amendments to the bill, and we'll get back to the committee with any additional concerns. Thank you.
On behalf of AUC and the MMCA, my name is Sean Malone. We did not testify in opposition to Delegate Wilson's bill. The amendments that were described by Ms. Edwards address many of the concerns that we have as a contingency. As a contingency bill, as drafted, the bill did run afoul of the supremacy clause. I think those amendments fix it. However, on page 6, lines 5 through 18, meet and confer is a process that's recognized in the public sector. It's recognized in the private sector. It's allowed under the NLRA. In-house unions are not allowed, and they're already covered by the NLRA, Section 8A2, and decisions that interpret that don't allow it. But there are employees who are not eligible to organize, confidential employees, management employees, who still should have a right to a say in the workplace with their employer. And to be able to sit and discuss issues and work through those issues is a completely legitimate process. There are conditions in this that I think, frankly, would be hard to violate. But I think, frankly, if we're making this a contingent bill, we should make that section contingent because it does get into some new areas. If we're going to go forward with that section, we should probably draft it so that employers are not chilled in the discussion with their employees. Employees have a right to say, I want a little more vacation time, whether they're organized or not. That's recognized under the current Labor Relations Act. And I don't think that's what the intent of that section is, but it can easily be interpreted from someone looking through it who doesn't understand the complexity of this law. Frankly, the section's not needed, but if we're going to add it, I think making it also contingent. The amendments, I don't think, make that section contingent. Other than that, we have no other concerns with the bill.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the committee. For the record, my name is Mike O'Haller, and I'm here today representing NFIB in Maryland. You have our written testimony. The only thing I'd add to Mr. Wiggins and Mr. Malone, and with regards to the contingency, I have not seen the amendments myself, but I guess one practical concern would be, in the event that the NLRB does cede its authority, is there a provision that, the Maryland PERB looking into private sector employer-employee relationships, would that then be abrogated if the NLRB were to reassert jurisdiction? But other than that, me too. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Doesn't qualify as me too, unfortunately. Thank you for attempting. All right, seeing no questions from the committee, thank you very much for your testimony. That concludes our bill hearing on HB 1480. We will move on next to HB 934. Washington County, we have Delegate Weibel here to present.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good to see you and good to see members of the committee. For the record, I'm Delegate Weibel, pleased to present House Bill 934, the easiest bill you'll consider all day. Washington County has a salary study commission that makes recommendations for local elected positions in the county. When they last met, they could not find a representative for Cumberland Valley Associated Builders and Contractors, as it's believed that group no longer exists. So this bill simply replaces them with a representative from the Washington County Home Builders Association. That's it, and I ask for a favorable report. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Delegate Weibel, for your presentation. Seeing no questions from the committee, that concludes our bill hearing on HB 934. We'll move on next to Delegate Grammer. I do not see HB 305. Okay. All right. The next we'll move on to Delegate Fisher for HB 1155.
Get this open. Thank you, Madam Chairwoman and members of the committee. Before you is House Bill 1155. For the record, Delegate Mark Fisher. We have a series of Calvert County delegation bills that you will hear today. This is the first of several. This bill is titled Calvert County Procurement Long-Term Contracts for Infrastructure and Asset Management. The bill authorizes Calvert County to enter into a contract for infrastructure and asset management program in the infrastructure asset if the asset has a life cycle of at least 15 years, such as water towers and flow meters and other water and sewer assets, and the contract has an initial term of up to 20 years. A contract for infrastructure or an asset management program under this bill may include planning, design, construction, operations, maintenance, modification, revitalization, and decommissioning of the infrastructure or asset. That's effectively what the bill does. Calvert County delegation supports the bill, as does the Calvert County Commissioners.
All right, seeing if there's any questions from the committee. All right, seeing none. So we'll move on to the next Calvert County bill, HB 1156.
Sure, and there are two individuals from Calvert County that would very much like to come up. Be great if they could. Thank you, Madam Chairwoman and members of the committee. Before you is House Bill 1156. For the record, Delegate Mark Fisher on behalf of the Calvert County delegation. This bill is titled Calvert County Length of Service Award Program Benefits. The bill alters the Length of Service Award Program, known as LOSAP, in Calvert County. The bill increases the death or burial benefit amount that specified Calvert County volunteer fire and rescue members are eligible to receive under certain circumstances. And with that, I would like to turn the testimony over to the experts.
Hi, good afternoon. Okay. Good afternoon. My name is Crystal Dowd. Good afternoon, Chair Wells, Vice Chair Kerr, and members of the Government Labor and Elections Committee. My name is Crystal Dowd, Calvert County Public Safety Deputy Director. I am speaking on behalf of the Calvert County Board of County Commissioners in support of House Bill 1156. Volunteer fire, rescue, and EMS personnel are essential to Calvert County's public safety system. Our volunteers dedicate countless hours to protecting our residents and often at great personal sacrifice. Our county relies heavily on their commitment and service. House Bill 1156 makes an important update to Calvert County's Length of Service Award Program. Specifically, the bill increases the death benefit from $10,000 to $14,000. It also allows the benefit to be provided as either a death or burial benefit at the beneficiary's option. This change will help ensure the benefit provided through the program remains meaningful to the families of volunteers and who have dedicated many years of service to our community. Over time, burial and funeral costs have increased substantially, and the current benefit no longer reflects these expenses. While the fiscal impact to the county is modest, approximately $16,000 annually, the impact to the families of our volunteers is significant. This adjustment adjusts our continued commitment to supporting the volunteers who protect our communities and the families who support them. For these reasons, the Calvert County Board of County Commissioners respectfully requests a favorable report on House Bill 1156. Thank you for your consideration.
Good afternoon, Chair Wells, Vice Chair Kerr, and members of the committee. My name is Dale Bowen, and I'm in my 40th year at the Huntingtown Volunteer Fire Department and Rescue Squad, and I'm proud to say our department remains 100% volunteer at this time. I'm here on behalf of the Maryland State Firefighters Association and the Calvert County Fire Rescue EMS Association, and I'm pleased to testify in support of House Bill 1156. Deputy Director Dowd did a great job at explaining how this benefit does help us. I'm going to give you some numbers. We have had entered into a combination EMS system in Calvert County due to the lack of volunteers recently, and that's a significant cost to the county and the taxpayers. But if we were to enter into a fire service in Calvert County, one 4-person crew, 24/72, averages about $1.4 million a year. And if we did that in all of our fire departments, we're talking about $8.5 to $9 million a year that the county and the taxpayers would have to pay the burden on. So I'm not going to keep you since these two did such a great job. I'll just will let you know that I was a recruitment retention coordinator for the Maryland State Firefighters Association, and I've seen around the state firsthand how difficult it is to keep and retain volunteers. And this is an excellent way to retain our volunteers and thank them for our service. Thank you for your time. I request a favorable report on House Bill 1156, and I'm happy to take any questions if you have them.
Thank you very much, Delegate, for the bill, and to your sponsor panel, Delegate Lehman.
Yeah, very quickly, thank you. Thank you for bringing this bill. I did similar legislation when I was on the Prince George's County Council. I was just trying to remember. So you're raising the cap from 10,000 to 14,000, but then there's another figure in there tied to the number of years of service, and it's a per month number. Why are there both figures in there? And is 14 the most it can be, no matter how many years beyond 25?
It's if you are invested in LoSAP after 25 years, the $14,000 would do it. If you're under the 25 years, it is a set number per year that you have volunteered.
And that's where that amended $560 a month comes in.
That is correct.
It's a different formula.
That's correct.
But beyond, let's say you've served 30 years and then pass away, no matter what, it can't go over 14,000.
Correct.
Okay, and then last question is, do you have to square this with your insurer, or because isn't that still who pays out, an outside insurance company?
No, the county pays.
The county directly.
Yes,
okay.
It's the county funded.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Seeing no more questions from the committee, that concludes our bill hearing on 1156. Thank you for your testimony. We'll move next to HB 1158.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman and members of the committee. Before you is House Bill 1158, titled Calvert County Contracts for Infrastructure or Asset Management. Contract duration, for the record, Delegate Mark Fisher, Calvert County Chair. This bill authorizes Calvert County to enter into a contract for infrastructure or an asset management program if the infrastructure or asset has a life cycle of at least 15 years, including water towers, flow meters, and the contract has an initial term of up to 20 years. A contract for infrastructure or an asset management program under the bill may include planning, design, construction, operations, maintenance, modification, revitalization, and decommissioning of the infrastructure or asset, supported by the delegation and the commissioners.
All right, thank you very much. Seeing no questions from the committee, that concludes the hearing on 1158. We'll move on to 1160, Calvert County.
Yes. Thank you, Madam Chairwoman and members of the committee. Before is House Bill 1160, titled Calvert County, Calvert Health Medical Center. For the record, Delegate Mark Fisher, Chair of the Calvert County Delegation. This straightforward bill updates an obsolete reference to the Calvert Memorial Hospital in public local laws of Calvert County to be the Calvert Health Medical Center, Inc., and its successors. It's supported by the delegation and the commissioners.
Great. Seeing no questions from the committee, we'll move on to our next bill. Thank you very much. That concludes the hearing for 1160. Oh, excuse me. I'm so sorry. I realized that there are people here to testify.
Cool.
I apologize. I moved too fast. Are you Mr. Jeremy Bradford?
I am Patrick Garcia.
Okay. Oh, I'm so sorry. I missed you up there. Yep, Patrick Garcia. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is Patrick Garcia, and I serve as Chief Compliance Counsel at Calvert Health. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today in support of House Bill 1160. House Bill 1160 is an important technical update to the public local laws of Calvert County to accurately reflect the organization's current legal name, replacing the former references to Calvert Memorial Hospital with Calvert Health Medical Center, Inc. and its successors. Our organization has served Calvert County for more than a century. Founded in 1919 as Calvert Hospital of Calvert County, the institution later became Calvert Memorial Hospital. In 2017, we undertook a comprehensive rebrand to reflect the growth of our health system and the broader scope of the care we now provide across the community. On September 14, 2017, the name Calvert Health was legally adopted and has since been trademarked and copyrighted. Today, Calvert Health represents an integrated network of care that includes the hospital, physician practices, outpatient services, and community health programs. House Bill 1160 would correct this outdated reference to our former name and align statutory references with our current legal designation as Calvert Health Medical Center, Inc. Updating these references will help avoid confusion and ensure clarity and consistency in legal, financial, and operational matters. We appreciate your consideration of this legislation and respectfully request a favorable report. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Garcia. I do see that they had Samantha Jones was also written here to testify. They're not here today. No. Okay. Thank you very much. Seeing no more questions from the committee, that concludes the bill hearing on 1160. We'll move to 1332. Delegate Fisher.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman and members of the committee. We may have a couple of panelists that's okay. They're welcome to come forward if you're testifying, if you're signed up to testify. So good morning, good afternoon, Madam Chairwoman, feels like morning, and members of the committee. Before you is House Bill 1332, titled Calvert County Commissioners Prohibited Agreements. For the record, Delegate Mark Fisher, Chair of the Calvert County Delegation. This bill, of course, is in my name personally. The bill prohibits the Calvert County Commissioners or a person acting on behalf of the Commissioners from entering into a non-disclosure agreement or confidentiality agreement with another person. A provision in an agreement that is made in violation of this prohibition is void and unenforceable. The bill applies prospectively and may not be applied or interpreted to have any effect or any application to an NDA or confidentiality agreement that was in effect before October 1 of 2026. Why is this bill before you? Well, this bill's before you because Calvert County has two major energy generators. One is the nuclear power plant, which is in the district that I represent, and the other is the liquefaction natural gas plant, which is in the southern part of the county. Both facilities generate an enormous amount of power for different reasons, and as I will tell you now, the nuclear power plant is the granddaddy of all locations for data centers. Why is it? Well, because it's 1,100 acres and it's the most valuable site on the entire East Coast for a data center. No surprise, as you might expect, many different data center developers have approached Constellation as well as Calvert County on a separate parcel that the county owns in a different location, but in the southern part of the county, to build data centers. The county commissioners entered into non-disclosure agreements for these particular data centers and effectively screened and shielded from the population, the citizens of Calvert County, the fact that these particular data centers were moving forward through the permitting process. And so you might ask, well, why did they do that? Well, I'm not going to answer for that. I'm just going to say this. We know that the data center companies and the data center developers are the wealthiest companies this world has ever seen. And they enter into these agreements for a variety of reasons. One is, let's be frank, so that people don't know. The other is so that they can get some sort of tax abatement. And to do so in the dark and not in an area that would be transparent. And I found out about this, and I think you guys will appreciate it, in January of last year during a Southern Maryland delegation event here in Annapolis during session, an event sponsored by Procter & Associates, when an individual came to me and said, well, you must know Mr. Natelli. I said, well, I do not. Well, Mr. Natelli has entered into an agreement with the Calvert County Commissioners for the purposes of building a data center on county property. There are a lot of issues with this, as you can imagine, not the least of which is it's sole sourcing with the developer. Then there's the Constellation property, and this is really important, guys. Constellation is a great partner in Calvert County, but I'm well-known in Calvert County for saying it the way it is. And Constellation wants to sell the power that they have already there off of their existing generation. And they are going to make some changes, some augmentations, some substation improvements. But the fact of the matter is that their intent is to sell about 25% of the power off of the existing generation that is there. That facility generates 40% of the state's power. Constellation's response, in part, is to bring a long transmission line from Peach Bottom in Pennsylvania and build transmission lines into Maryland to generate more power and bring it into Maryland. Well, as you know, that those transmission lines are built by the ratepayers. They're paid for by us. There are congestion and capacity charges related to those, the length of the energy going from Pennsylvania into Maryland. That is added onto your bill as part of standard offer service. So I don't blame Amazon, and I don't blame Microsoft and Anthropic and Meta for wanting to enter into non-disclosure agreements. I don't. I know why they want to do it. But I do know this. I do blame the Calvert County commissioners for entering into non-disclosure agreements and shielding this from the citizens of Calvert County. It's just not an acceptable way to run a government. Proof be told, I was told in a joint delegation meeting with the commissioners that not to worry, nothing was happening. Well, in August of 2025, this was submitted to MDE, which is a package, of course, an intent of clearing and grading a massive part of the 1,100 acres at Calvert Cliffs. That's private property, right? They can go through these processes if they so choose. But I do think that there is a unique and compelling public interest in the people knowing. Here is a map of how much of the property would be cleared and graded. I'm sure, as you can imagine, if this property were mine in Calvert County on the Chesapeake Bay, I would probably be denied the ability to clear and grade that property. There are apparently up to 7 data centers that are being proposed at the Calvert Cliffs nuclear power plant, unbeknownst to the citizens of Calvert County, until I exposed the fact that this was being shielded from the citizens. The amount of power that looks like will be taken off of the grid is probably enough to power the city of Baltimore. And so that's why I put in House Bill 120, which is a bill that requires data centers to bring their own power, which means build your own power plant adjacent to the data center. At a minimum, that should be the conversation. So what's happening in Calvert is affecting the entire state. And it should be a conversation that we have as a legislature to comprehensively solve the problems that we have before us, but at the same time, understand that there are compelling interests when it comes to non-disclosure agreements that the people have when we really shouldn't be entering into them. Now, I'll finish with this, and I appreciate everyone here listening. The Calvert County Commissioners, their argument is, well, this is a really important tool to have, non-disclosure agreements, for us to be able to bring business to Calvert County. And I will give you my own unique take on this. For 30 years, I've owned and operated a cell phone tower company. In order for me to build a cell phone tower, I have to notify all of the adjacent property owners in writing via certified mail return receipt requested. And I also have to send it in regular mail too. And then there's a public hearing. And so the people know well in advance about what's going on. What I can't do is to enter into a non-disclosure agreement with the government and say, don't tell anyone what I'm doing until it's too late. And that, in my opinion, was always the intent of the data center companies. And they're not just coming to our community, they're going to yours, they're trying to do the exact same thing, for the record. So for all of the reasons that I've given today, I have to say this. I came to the General Assembly a number of years ago on the issue of transparency, and I've never let up. And this is probably the biggest single doozy I've ever seen, and it's in my own county. And it's quite a surprise. So with that, Madam Chairwoman, I appreciate the latitude and would be happy to answer any questions before we go to the other panelists, if you would like. It's up to you.
Let's let the panelists speak, and then we can go to questions. Thank you. I have I have Luke Grover and Kenneth Lee. Is that who I see up? Okay.
Good morning, Madam Chairman, committee members. My name is Kenneth Lee. I'm from Calvert County. Today I want to talk about why non-disclosure and confidentiality agreements, commonly known as NDAs, can be harmful, and why we should question how they are used. At first glance, NDAs seem reasonable. Businesses argue that they protect trade secrets, property, and sensitive information. However, in practice, NDAs are often used for something very different: silencing people, us, the citizens. Too often, NDAs prevent people from speaking out and hide unethical behavior. When someone is asked to sign an agreement that threatens legal consequences for speaking the truth, it creates a culture of fear and secrecy. Problems remain hidden, people stay silent, and big businesses, they avoid accountability. NDAs also create an imbalance of power. Large companies with big legal teams can pressure individuals and county officials into signing agreements that they may not fully understand. Once signed, those agreements can limit a person's ability to discuss anything about the project at all. Transparency is always the best policy when it comes to trust. When information is locked away behind NDAs, it prevents the public from having any say in the decisions being made. NDAs should not stand in the way of truth or public safety. NDAs should never be used to silence opinions. In a community, honesty and transparency must matter more than secrecy, lies, and corporate protection. Thank you for listening.
Madam Chair and Vice Chairman, members of the committee, my name is James McQueen. I rise in support of House Bill 1332. The bill is about a simple, important principle: transparency in government. The citizens of Calvert County deserve to know how decisions are made and how their local government conducts its business. When public officials enter into non-disclosure or confidential agreements, it can prevent citizens from understanding actions taken on their behalf. House Bill 1332 ensures that the Calvert County Commissioners or anyone acting on their behalf cannot enter into agreements that conceal government business from the public. When government operates in the open, it strengthens trust and accountability. It also does not override existing laws that protect legitimately confidential matters, such as personnel issues, attorney-client privilege, or other legal protection information. What it does is prevent the voluntary use of non-disclosure agreements to hide the government actions from the public. Public office is a trust. Transparency is essential to maintaining that trust. House Bill 1332 simply enforces the business of government should remain visible to the people it serves. For these reasons, I respectfully ask for a favorable report on House Bill 1332. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, both of you, for your testimony. Thank you, Delegate, for the bill. We have some questions waiting for you. We'll begin with Delegate Wilson.
Thank you, Delegate Fisher. As always, you and I don't see eye to eye, including on this. And the main reason that we don't see eye to eye is because I don't understand how any public official in Maryland can sign an NDA, an enforceable NDA, period. I don't agree with the scope of your bill because I think it should be broadened. I don't think anybody in doing public business, NDAs require several things: scope and duration, serving a legal business interest, and consideration. And that's very important here. Consideration is something of benefit in order for a contract to be enforceable, meaning sometimes trade secrets, sometimes it's a job, sometimes it's money. So I am utterly flabbergasted, and I would love to harass you for your short-sightedness, but joking, all jokes aside, I appreciate this because I did not know this wasn't already in law. And this is patently offensive to know that any public official doing public business, because there's no conversation that we should be having where trade secrets are exposed. If somebody wants to discuss their potential plans, they're discussing them in my public capacity. And I am patently offended. I can't believe that any of these NDAs would be enforceable unless there is some consideration exchange, which then would call into question the ethics of the individuals that have been signing them. And I'm shocked that this is a thing. And we've discussed this. I didn't know you were serious, I'll be honest with you, because I don't think that this, and again, maybe I'm wrong and somebody here can correct me, but I don't see any public official in Maryland should ever be able to enter into an NDA within the scope of their business, period. If you're receiving a job of whatever you're doing, because there is some consideration that you have to receive, some benefit that you have to receive in order to enter in it, to have an enforceable NDA. So I hope that you're open to some amendments.
Absolutely.
Because I do not think that, and honestly, the prospective thing, I don't agree with that either. I think it should be retrospective. And I know this is a contract, but again, if you're a public official and you've entered into one of these agreements last year, that's on you. Because you had to have received some consideration in order for this to be an enforceable contract. As such, if you're receiving consideration and you're not reporting it, and again, as part of the NDA, you can't, then we're in a whole different ball of wax. So I hope that you would be amenable, because you're usually not, but to some amendments to this bill. I don't know how this isn't a statewide bill. And again, I'm sure my colleagues may have something else, but you know, I think Luke used to be a lawyer back in the day. Maybe there's something, but I just don't see, even for my first year of law school, how an NDA for any public official holding any public office should be enforceable, and ethical, and including what they've signed in the past. So again, that's my 2 cents. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I would just say, if I might, Madam Chairwoman and Delegate Wilson, I appreciate your comments, and Delegate Wilson and I have had a long time good working relationship on a lot of key issues in Southern Maryland. And behind me are actually individuals that have previously testified on a bill concerning fire services in Calvert County and EMS, and they have been completely left out of the conversation. One would think that the vast amount of data centers that are being proposed on this property, the first people you would include would be all of the folks involved in 911 services, that big umbrella, and they have not been.
Thank you. Delegate Terraza.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for this bill. I wholeheartedly agree with everything Delegate Wilson is saying. I have to say that when, and Delegate Fisher's bill. This may be a first in my 8 years.
It was so hard to say that, I know.
I know. But so when I was on the county council, the entire council, other than me, signed an NDA on a TIF agreement, tax increment financing. I was floored and absolutely refused to, and was shunned completely for that. I think there's increasing pressure on local government to do this, and so I would hope that you would support a much broader bill, and also one that is statewide, because this is a huge concern from my perspective. I agree that about the centers, but also for everything else. But I refused, and I think everyone should.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Delegate Terraza. Delegate Lehman.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for the presentation. I was just curious, whether the Calvert County Commission has a position on this. I see nothing in the testimony for or against. Did you have that conversation? Maybe that is my answer, but did you have a conversation at all with your commissioners?
Delegate Lehman is very thorough. I appreciate it. I respect that. I got to tell you, very much respected. So the commissioners were sent a letter from our office requesting a written reply of either support or not support. And as you can imagine, we have not received a reply. That has been sent at least on 2 occasions. So that, it's interesting, when you're in the legislature, we have these rules that you want the delegation to support something, and then you want the local government to support it. But there are those times when that has to be broken. And
believe me, I understand that dynamic. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Delegate Ruth.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And the comments that have been made were similar to my comments. I appreciate Delegate Wilson's legal expertise. I'm not a lawyer, so that really helped to clarify things. But I also would hope that you'd be open to broadening this as well. And I think it's you're on to something when Delegate Fisher, Delegate Wilson, Delegate Terrassa, and Delegate Ruth all agree on something. Thank you.
Delegate Schindler.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I'll echo my colleagues. This is a rare time when I think you're going to get a pretty good consensus from everyone. I was going to ask the same. If I know in my municipal experience, there were NDAs, and I was shocked by that as well. So I think I would love to see this be a much broader, to cover all public officials.
Absolutely.
A brief question from Delegate Wilson.
And also just fearing the success of this bill, do you think we can change whose name the bill's in? Just playing.
Thank you very much, everyone. Really good. Oh, Delegate Wu. I'm sorry, Delegate Wu.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Delegate Fisher. Your bill got a lot of questions. That's great. So I think one question is I'm thinking about situation when business try to approach your county, for example, for certain projects, only for feasibility study, right? They said they want to keep it under the table because if this is exposed, maybe everything will get very expensive. For example, purchase a land or something. Mm-hmm. Is that part of the kind of NDA, or you are thinking about what kind of NDA? Mm-hmm. Is that or for the situation I'm talking about? Is that legal or not legal?
I would answer it this way. In Calvert, we have Constellation's property, which is, privately owned, albeit a publicly traded corporation. And on that particular property, Constellation can do as it chooses, subject to zoning. However, they entered into an NDA for a whole variety of reasons. One is to get so far along as to have no one be able to oppose it. And then there's the separate NDA on county property. And on that particular property, of course, anyone can approach the county and say, I have a great idea. But at the end of the day, there has to be an RFP. So the county has gone way down this process. I think if I were county commissioner for a day, I would have hired a very high-end consultant who is an expert in the subject matter of data centers and energy, and then said, is this a great location for a data center? And then done an RFP, and then have the conversation with the citizens of Calvert County as to whether they wanted it. Hopefully that answers your question.
Thank you.
Okay, Delegate Kerr.
Delegate Fisher, do you know if your county attorney was aware of the NDA and advised the commissioners?
The county attorney is now working in St. Mary's County.
That's the answer.
Okay, thank you.
Gotcha. All right. Thank you very much, Delegate Fisher. I think, just so to say it on the record, it sounds like there's a lot of interest in this bill, so thank you for bringing forth the bill. The last bill from Delegate Fisher, HB 1514.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman and members of the committee. Before you is House Bill 1514, Calvert County, county officials, and Board of Education salaries and benefits. For the record, Delegate Mark Fisher, Chair of the Calvert County Delegation. This bill increases Calvert County salaries of county elected officials And it is all spelled out in the fiscal note, and I'd be happy to take any questions. This is done once every 4 years.
Also wanted to acknowledge, I apologize, that this bill is jointly assigned with Ways and Means, so we were joined by 3 colleagues from there, Delegate Roberson, Delegate Patterson, and Delegate Hornberger. Thank you very much. And see if there's any questions from
Sure.
Delegate Patterson.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Delegate Fisher, for recognizing the need for having salary increases, particularly for the Board of Ed, having an awareness of how much work they do and sometimes not the appropriate compensation. I applaud that. I do have a question as it relates to, because full disclosure, I was on the school board as well, the issue of raising the raise and medical coverage for life for some of the, I believe it's county commissioners?
Yep.
Okay.
Great question. So Delegate Morgan, Delegate Todd Morgan submitted an amendment to have that removed.
Oh.
And I believe that Delegate Long supports that. And so, yes.
All right, thank you very much. And again, thank you for realizing the compensation for these employees or public servants.
Thank you, Delegate Patterson.
Thank you very much. Delegate Wilson.
Thank you, Delegate Fisher. And I just want to, just for clarification, because, times are tight and, budgets are tight, county budgets are tight. And I just want to make sure, this is a county delegation bill?
It's a delegation bill. Okay,
so I just need to know, do you support this bill? As the or are we going to be fighting a battle for you that you won't now
Yeah, I support the bill. I support the bill. We have a compensation review commission in Calvert County. You guys will appreciate this, and this is important for the record. Calvert County has a treasurer that's elected. And in addition to that, embedded inside of the county government, we have a Department of Finance. And the Department of Finance over the years has had some issues here and there. One such issue involved the renegotiation of an existing pilot agreement with a liquefaction natural gas plant. And there was a lot of discussion in the commission, the county commissioners over the years, to eliminate the treasurer's position. And I fought for this position. And I fought for it because I believe there needs to be a check and balance between those two departments in Calvert County. And I think the truth on this matter has worked itself out because we have determined that there have been, again, some things a little bit too closely held. And so as part of the process of making sure that we have highly qualified people running for treasurer, we knew that we had to pay them properly. And past commissions, the last 4, have always favored not paying them well because they were trying to get rid of the position. And then the catalyst 3 years ago was when Berkshire Hathaway's plant in southern Calvert County had a pilot agreement that someone in the county, I still don't know whom, could have been a whole group of people, I'm not sure, forgot that the pilot agreement ran out. And as such, Calvert County lost millions of dollars in state funding in addition to the leverage that it had to renegotiate a pilot agreement that could have easily been tens of millions of dollars more potentially.
So making sure that our county and probably some state officials are paid fairly, that you agree with that.
I'm not here to argue for state officials. I'm just here for Calvert County delegation.
Thank you very much.
Delegate Lehman.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. Delegate Fisher, really briefly, so I had also heard a concern to the point that Delegate Patterson raised about that medical benefit for life for a commissioner who serves 10 years or more. regardless of their age. So conceivably, somebody who serves from, say, mid-20s to mid-30s could then get medical benefits for 50-plus years. So I was just curious what the fiscal note said about that. It does not attempt to calculate what that looks like at all. All it mentions is this very modest increase based on the proposed increases in pay. So that's something, if I were in your situation, I would want to look at, because there's just no calculation for that, and it could be substantial for the county.
And fair enough. And then I think Delegate Morgan also submitted that amendment to you, which is supported by the delegation.
Delegate Solomon.
Here we go.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm a little hard of hearing in one ear, maybe too many earbuds, but I think I heard my colleague asking you a question, and I just wanted to make sure that I understood it. Did you say that in general you support the concept of paying public officials a little bit more to try to get high-quality people to serve in good positions? Just for the record.
So what is true of one thing may not be true of the whole. So the answer to the question is really simple. In the treasurer's office, it's unique. One of the cool things about having a treasurer is when we had the Great Recession, we had scores of people going to the treasurer's office saying, I can't pay my property taxes. And the treasurer, as an elected official, did workouts. And those workouts were in private and they were confidential. And it was a wonderful thing. That treasurer deserves a tremendous amount of credit. And so moving forward, I've been fighting literally for years to keep this position in place because of my experience in witnessing that. And now that finance is so sophisticated, we want to make sure we have someone that has a degree or some education in this field, and they're never going to be a treasurer at $50,000 a year.
You might get mistaken for a Democrat one of these days. Thank you, Delegate. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Said no one.
Feels like upside down day. Delegate Roberson.
It is.
It's a little weird. It's snowing outside also.
Excuse me.
Thank you to my former this is loud. Thank you to my former Ways and Means colleague. It's good to see you. Good to see some former judiciary colleagues as well. I'm in good company, I see. Good to see you. Just a quick question. I saw on the bill, it was also school board members, am I correct, is included in that?
Correct.
So what about your student member on the board? Because I didn't see they were included.
We don't pay
Do you pay them at all?
No.
Okay. Do you, have you all considered that?
No, it's not something that we would ever support. We don't think minors should have an active vote on a school board because they're minors, and we don't think minors should be paid to be on the school board because they're minors. We think they should be in school learning.
Got it. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Okay, seeing no further questions from the committee, this concludes our bill hearing on HB 1514. I want to thank our colleagues from Oh, I'm so sorry. I apologize.
I think we might have a.
That is not our last bill for the day.
It's the last bill for me, but I think you have one more individual.
You do. I apologize. Ms. Samantha Jones.
So my name is Melanie Woodson.
Okay.
Good afternoon, Chair Wells, Vice Chair Kerr, and members of the committee. My name is Melanie Woodson, and I'm the Human Resources Director for Calvert County Government. I'm here today on behalf of the Board of County Commissioners in support of House Bill 1514. This bill updates compensation and certain benefit provisions for the county commissioners, the Calvert County Board of Education, and the county treasurer. The legislation modernizes outdated salary provisions and aligns these positions with current county practices related to retirement and health benefits. For example, the bill allows the commissioners who have completed at least 10 years of service to participate in the county's retiree health benefits plan. Several Maryland jurisdictions provide similar post-service health insurance benefits to elected officials under defined eligibility structures, and this provision brings Calvert County more in line with those types of practices. This bill also transitions the county treasurer's retirement structure so that beginning with the next term of office, the position participates in the county's existing employee retirement system. From a practical administrative standpoint, this is also the most common sense approach. Aligning the retirement provisions with the county's existing system allows staff to process an elected official leaving office using the same procedures already in place for county employees. If the individual meets the eligibility requirements at the end of their term, they would simply retire require under the county standard framework. Importantly, the legislation applies only to future terms of office, ensuring compliance with constitutional requirements regarding changes to elected officials' compensation. The Board of County Commissioners respectfully request a favorable report. Thank you very much.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Ms. Woodson. Delegate Chisholm.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't really have a question for you, Ms. Jones. I just want to thank you for your patience while Delegate Fisher dominated that microphone and refused to go.
Great. Seeing no further questions from the committee, this does conclude our bill hearing on HB 1514. Thank you very much for being with us today as well. Thank you to our Ways and Means colleagues for being with us. And we will move to our last bill of the day, Delegate Grammer, HB 305.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I did have one member on my panel.
Yes, I see Scott Silverman. Is that correct?
Yes. I'll get started if it's okay. Thank you, Madam Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, members of the committee. For the record, Delegate Robin Grammer here to present House Bill 305. House Bill 305 alters the qualifications used to determine standing for community associations when seeking judicial relief for nuisance actions in Baltimore County. The current language of this section is prohibitive to functional use of the statute. Specifically, the household dues and bonding requirements under this code make it impractical and out of step with how modern community associations work. Most communities have found it dysfunctional and have legitimate concerns dismissed for lack of standing. The goal of this bill is to adopt some of the changes adopted by Baltimore City in their code, which has found these revisions to be appropriate and effective. This bill passed the full House in 2018, full House in 2019, and the full Senate in 2020. This year's version has several changes that have been adopted on behalf of the developers. I'll touch on those quickly. First, we add language requiring a 60-day waiting period if the property in question is subject to an active enforcement plan. We have added language excluding stormwater management from the standing provided in the statute. We have added service of process requirements to both the owner of record and potential tenants to protect due process. And finally, we've added that an action cannot be filed against owners of residential property unless notice of violation has been issued by the appropriate enforcement agency. In the cases of housing or building code violation, the violation is outstanding after a period of 75 days. Thanks for the opportunity to present House Bill 305. I'd be happy to take questions, and I'd ask for a favorable.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the committee. My name is Scott Silverman. I am the Vice Chair of Community Association Institute's Maryland Legislative Action Committee. We represent members of community associations statewide, and we fully support Delegate Grammer's bill, HB 305, and welcome the opportunity to expand the standing of community associations in seeking relief in connection with nuisance actions. As you may be aware, nuisances are a particularly difficult problem for community associations. There are nuisance provisions in their governing documents, but they are fairly general in nature, so we certainly welcome the intervention of the county and its assistance whenever possible. Truthfully, our only request with regard to the bill is that it be statewide, but we understand why it has to be limited to Baltimore County at this point. We fully support the bill and ask for a favorable report.
Thank you very much, Delegate, for the bill. Thank you for your testimony, Mr. Silverman. Seeing if we have any questions for this panel from the committee. Delegate Ruth.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Hi, Delegate. I just wanted to confirm the Baltimore County delegation vote to support this.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Delegate Stewart.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for bringing the bill. I voted for it last year. Quick question, though. I just noticed this year. I didn't notice last year. Why did you exempt rent escrow violations?
I'd have to double back and look at the discussions from last year, but I'll be happy to get that to you.
I think it was maybe in last year's bill too. I'm not positive it was like exempted just in this year's version of the bill, but it was definitely exempted at some point.
A lot of this has been code that we've brought over and over and over again.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I just don't think that kind of issue is what we were going after, but I'll double back.
Okay, thanks.
All right, thank you so much. Seeing no more questions for the bill sponsor and his sponsor panel, we have, we'll move on to unfavorable testimony.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Silverman.
Thank you.
I'll call up next Tom Ballantyne and Robert Inton.
What's up? Yeah. Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Robert Enton, I'm testifying today in opposition to this legislation. I've been opposed to this legislation for years on behalf of the Maryland Multi-Housing Association as well as the Maryland Building Industry Association. I understand it's a local bill. But that doesn't change our opposition to it, and it's still up to this committee to decide whether to vote it out or not. You have written testimony, but you also have a very, very good fiscal note, which highlights the differences between what was adopted previously many years ago and what's in this bill. This bill completely guts all of the provisions that were agreed upon by my clients and community association activists a number of years ago to make sure that the community associations were real community associations. So under this bill today, you could have a community association, instead of the requirements for a certain number of members and a certain number of households, you could have a community association that had 3 households in it, and they would now have standing to go to court to seek injunctions, to seek damages against someone who, they don't like what they're doing. And in a day and age when it's critical that we advance housing for our clients, they are committed to increasing affordable housing for all different types of people and classes of people and communities. But this would allow somebody, in the way this bill is written, somebody in Dundalk could form a 2-person community association and object to a project in Pikesville. Or that removes any geographical limitations. It doesn't have to be a real corporation. It doesn't have to have a number of members. All that is out of the bill. So basically, this completely eviscerates the principles of standing. And that's why the bill was negotiated, was because we were going away from the common law principle of standing, that you had to,
Mr. Inton,
had to have an interest. And I'll wrap up, Madam
Thank
Chair.
you.
I'm sorry to ramble on. I just do feel strongly about this.
We understand. Thank you.
It was limited because we were taking away the requirement for standing. So we are opposed, and we'd urge the committee
Thank you very
to give the
much.
bill an unfavorable report. Thank you.
Mr. Ballantyne.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, members of the committee. Tom Ballantyne on behalf of NAIOP Maryland. We're a commercial real estate trade association here to recommend your unfavorable report on House Bill 305. Our members are some of the largest property owners in Baltimore County. We understand how nuisance properties undermine neighborhood quality of life, and we don't want safe harbor for bad actors, but this bill removes all the local membership requirements for a community association to qualify for standing. Current law requires associations to represent at least 20% of households in the community, collect dues, and have at least 1 year of organizational history. These baseline qualifications ensure that standing is granted to associations that have a neighborhood constituency. By removing local membership requirements, standing is extended to regional groups and associations of associations. Additionally, this bill expands the scope of activities that community associations can take to the circuit court. Currently, the law limits standing to nuisance activities defined in Article 13 of the Baltimore County Code. This bill broadens standing to include all activities regulated under Article 35, building and housing. This includes building permits, and we don't see why building permits are included in a nuisance abatement bill. The premise of this bill is that Baltimore County's nuisance abatement process is fundamentally ineffective, and that citizen suits are the solution, and we don't share that opinion. We think that the best way to approach any shortcomings there is for the county's inspection and code enforcement process to adjust rather than shifting responsibility to the court. So appreciate you considering our point of view. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ballantyne. Delegate Ruth.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and great to see you, Mr. Enton. We have had many conversations about this bill over the last few weeks, and I just wanted to address your concern about the geographic location, that somebody on one side of the county could file suit on the other side of the county. And I guess this is an "isn't that so" question, that the bill does define community association as requiring composed of residents in a community that is defined by specific geographic boundaries in the bylaws or charter of the community association, and that also the definition of nuisance says that it has to be within the geographic boundaries.
But it doesn't define what geographic boundary could be, from Reisterstown Road in Baltimore County over to White Marsh Avenue in White Marsh. That's, it doesn't say it's got to be a real, community. And that's the problem. I wouldn't have had a problem with the bill, I don't think, except that it really does completely gut all of the provisions that are in there, every single one of them. That dealt with making sure that these were real community associations. And plus, it does away with the bonding requirement. They don't have to post a bond. They could have everything that was put in there to make sure that if we were going to do this, that it would be fair and that it would be real is gone from the bill. That's why we're so opposed to it.
Thank you. But just to be clear, a community association based in Dundalk could not, it would have to be, you're saying it would have to be like a county-wide community association.
Well, it could be, like I said, like I live in Owings Mills. It's right off of Reisterstown Road. So it could be from Reisterstown Road all the way over to White Marsh Boulevard. That's a geographic boundary.
But there are certain, it's not that there's no requirements, that maybe there are not sufficient requirements, but somebody can't just say we're a community association. It does require them to incorporate, to have bylaws and all of that.
Let me respond to that, please. The answer to that is that, what does it cost? $85, I forget what it costs now, to file articles of incorporation. It's pennies. And if there's a development going on and I don't want it, maybe it's 5 miles from my neighborhood, but I don't want it. Now I can go ahead and I can spend $85 to get articles of incorporation for the XYZ Community Association, whatever you want to call it, the Dundalk Community Association, whatever. And now I'm a real community association with standing under this bill. Once again, this was this legislation, there was enabling legislation to allow this to occur, and it took several years to get it passed. But it finally did pass, and it was agreed upon by everybody, by the community association, advocates, by builders, by landlords. We all agreed to it. And I haven't heard one example, not one, and you didn't hear it either in the delegation, not one example of a situation where, had this bill been enacted, a dangerous or bad situation could have been addressed. I don't think the current law is broken. It doesn't need to be fixed.
Thank you, Mr. Enton. I always enjoy talking with you.
Thank you very much. Sounds like there'll be a spirited debate in the subcommittee on this bill. With that, seeing no more questions from the committee, that concludes our bill hearing.
Thank you.
On HB 305. Do we have any subcommittee announcements? Yes. All right, Delegate Crutchfield.
Yes, the Corrections Committee subcommittee is going to meet at 3:30 this afternoon via virtually.
3:30. Delegate, any other announcements from subcommittee? Okay, seeing none, Delegate Stewart. Moment in history.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I do have a moment in history this afternoon. Colleagues, 16 years ago, Southern Maryland was a quieter place. The political landscape was calmer. The temperature in this chamber was lower. and one of our colleagues was a different man. He was mild-mannered. He was soft-spoken, a small business owner, a family man. He had a degree in international affairs from George Washington University, a man, one might say, of cosmopolitan sensibilities and a measured temperament. He believed in dialogue, in civic process, in the peaceful exchange of ideas. And then someone punched him in the stomach at Green Turtle. Here's what happened. It was the summer of 2010. A young Republican candidate attended a meeting of political activists in Prince Frederick. He gave a presentation, complete with slides and a projector, and there was apparently some kind of disagreement about the projector. Words were exchanged. Tensions rose. And when the meeting ended, this candidate did what any mild-mannered, soft-spoken, international affairs educated person would do. He extended his hand. He attempted to shake hands with his rival, and the rival punched him in the stomach. Now, doctors will tell you that a sharp blow to the abdomen can affect a person in unexpected ways. And I believe it awakened something inside our colleague. Because that fall, the punch candidate did win the election in November, and he came to Annapolis. He later founded the Maryland Freedom Caucus. He began delivering fiery floor speeches. He called on businesses to leave the state of Maryland. He once forced a procedural standoff over pro forma sessions that lasted the better part of a week. This mild-mannered man with an international affairs degree has not been the same since. And so today, colleagues, we mark not just an anniversary, but an origin story. Somewhere in Calvert County, a projector sparked a dispute. A dispute sparked a punch, and a punch may have permanently altered the political temperature of the Maryland House of Delegates. We are all, in our own way, living with the consequences. So please join me in recognizing the man who proves that in Maryland politics, you should always, always shake your opponent's hand. Delegate Mark Fisher.
Good job. Good job. That was awesome.
Thank you very much, Delegate. With that, we are adjourned.